All right, shalom, shalom. All right, today I want to teach a little bit about the book of Proverbs. Okay, so something my wife pointed out a while ago. It's been I don't know how long ago, but she pointed out a while ago that if you want to read the book of Proverbs, you can read it within 1 month, a month that has 31 days, because Proverbs has 31 chapters. So if you read one chapter a day within the 31st day of the month, you would have read all of Proverbs. Now, from what my point of view is, you can start at any day, and it doesn't have to be a month with 31 days in it. But you can start on any day and just say, I'm going to read this book of Proverbs within a month. And starting today, I'm going to count 31 days on a calendar. Doesn't matter what day it is. And in 31 days, I would have taken a month or so to read the entire book of Proverbs. Now, the book of Proverbs is something very special, very enlightening. It'll open up your mind. It'll give you very factual things of wisdom and knowledge, understanding. It'll give you a comprehension of how to handle money, how to be a virtuous and righteous person, how to live in a moral state of righteousness with our Father, our King. It gives you so much. There's so much. And so let's talk about the book of Proverbs for a little bit. And let me put this on pause. I have my wife singing here in the background. But let's talk about Proverbs for a little bit. It has 31 chapters. The first thing the question we might have is, who wrote the book of Proverbs? So from what I see, and if you read Proverbs 1:1, it says the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. So that gives you a definite statement of who wrote the book of Proverbs. I have many Bibles here that I'm looking at, but so when you look throughout the entire book of Proverbs, you'll see that it was Solomon that penned most of it, or it was his Proverbs that he was given out, and it was being dictated by somebody else. Sometimes that happens. And then so it's been shown that at least 30 of the chapters here, 29 of the chapters that are here are written by Solomon himself. And he also wrote other books that we find in the Bible. Ecclesiastes is also something that he wrote. But right now in the book of Proverbs, and there's 2 other chapters that are left. And so when you get to chapter 30, it says there's this man named Agur, A-G-U-R, and that he wrote that part, and it's attributed to him. Now this man's not found anywhere else, and it's really interesting because you just don't see him. We don't know where he came from. We don't know who he is. But in chapter 30, verse 1, it says, the words of Agur, the son of Jehen, an oracle. So we don't really know who that is, but we know that he was given permission to add to the book of Proverbs. And he gives some really, when we get to that, we'll see what he wrote. And then we get to the very last, and I think one of the most precious chapters in the entire Bible, and that's Proverbs 31. And it's the chapter, and most people know it as the chapter of the virtuous woman. And it's written by King Lemuel, L-A-M-U-E-L. Now, he's given us wisdom and knowledge that his mother gave him. And I think that's a really good insight. As a young man, his mother said, hey, let me teach you some things. And she poured out her knowledge and her wisdom into her son, and he passed this along. And so when you read this thing, it's coming from a mother. Okay, so it says the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. Okay, let me read it out of this one, and we'll see what the difference is here. Just a little side note, so we can understand what the book of Proverbs is as we get into it. And so chapter 31 is really interesting when you read it. It says, when you get to verse 10, but let me see. It says, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy with which his mother disciplined him. Okay, so discipline doesn't mean to bring punishment. And so people get mixed up with that word. It's not punishment. It's discipline is a teaching. Instruction is probably an even better word. It's instruction. Okay, so she brought him instruction through this, and this is what she's passing on to us through her son, this king. Now, most people believe that King Lemuel is actually Solomon himself, and that was a word that, a name that his mother used for him. And if we go back in history and find out who the king was, who Solomon was, he was the son of Bathsheba. And so Bathsheba had some wisdom, some knowledge within her, and this is what she's passing down. And some believe that also. I just know that the Father put this here for us, but it is very, very beautiful. When we get to this chapter, I'm going to teach you something here very special of how it looks in the Hebrew and why it's shaped the way it's shaped. So when you're writing stuff, everything's written from right to left in Hebrew. But when it comes to this portion, there's a certain way that is written in a certain shape that the letters take form in as they pinned it in the Hebrew. It's very beautiful. Okay, nothing all super ooey spiritual or craziness, but just something very, very, very beautiful that is done. And you'll understand why I love reading from different scriptures, different versions of the scriptures, because you can glean so much off of it. Okay, so who wrote it? We just covered that. It's King Solomon. This other king named Agur, and then King Lemuel. Okay, and we believe that is Solomon. The purpose of Proverbs is to give insight on how we can cope with life. So Proverbs is a book that will give you very good help and instruction on how to go through life and how to deal with certain things. Like just life facts, and that's why when I read the scriptures from Genesis or Revelations, I'm always looking at, how do I apply this to my life? What do I do with this? And so the questions I ask is, how does this help me become a better father? How does this help me become a better husband? How does it help me become a better son, a better brother, a better friend, a better servant of my Elohim, of my King? How does it help me? So when I look at the scriptures, I'm trying to look for a practical application to apply the scriptures I'm reading to my life now. It's not some ancient historical book that just happened there and doesn't mean anything now. And it's not some super spiritual book that we can't attain because we're not in dealing in the spiritual realm all the time. Very little do we, even though we're spiritual beings. But we are confined to these human bodies. And so we must learn how to conduct ourselves here on this earth in these human bodies with all the finite things of our mind. We're not super intelligent like our Father, like our King, like God, And so we must use the things that He's left us to help us get through this world in these bodies until He comes and restores us to who we really are, and the wondrous thing and a wondrous person and a wondrous being and child that He has really made us. And we're all locked up inside. But one day He's going to release us from these bodies, and we're going to be something undescribable. So, and there's certain scriptures that actually show that. It says, we know not yet how we shall be, but when we see Him, we shall be as Him. And we can't even imagine how He is. So once we see Him and we shall be like Him, it's going to be just something great. Okay, so let's see. That was the purpose. It gives us insight on how we can cope with life. Okay, there is order at work in Elohim's moral universe. So in Proverbs, we're gonna learn that the moral universe, everything was given a instruction and to follow it, and morally to do what is told, what is good, to do what it was meant to do. An apple tree gives forth apples. If it ever was to give you oranges, it has broke a moral law of the universe that Elohim has placed and said, you are apple tree and you will produce apples and apples only. Now, that's people say, moral law, how do trees keep a moral law? Let's look at it. Seed has to beget seed. So with us as humans, we only beget other humans. And so that's a moral law, for those of you who understand what's written in the Bible, for a man and a woman who come together in marriage and conceive, and you have a child. That's all a moral law, all put together, a bunch of moral laws put together. And we'll break that down somewhere else in a different teaching. But just to understand that, the moral laws are there. There's laws the Father has put in place, and even nature itself bows down and obeys better than us humans. All right. So the first thing we see in Proverbs is wisdom speaking. It actually, wisdom has a voice. Do you listen to it? Do I listen to it? We need to listen to the voice of wisdom. We'll see that the contrast of wisdom and foolishness or folly or evil or wickedness, or being dumb, the way I look at it, you're either wise or you're dumb. And then, or wise counsel. We'll see wise counsel found here in the book of Proverbs. We'll see aphorisms of life, different things that we can lean on, and then what we do in life, and things to be weary of, and warned about, and things to obtain to and to thrive for. And then we'll see more collections of Proverbs from different places, because when you read the book of Proverbs, it's not like reading Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. It's not a story that's being told about things happening. It's just practical bits of wisdom all put together in this book called Proverbs, of a bunch of different proverbial things that King Solomon was given to his people to give us wisdom and pour knowledge into us to obtain whatever part of our life that we needed that at that time. And as we read this day to day, we'll take 31 days. I'll make 31 videos about this, and we'll just go through it. This is probably going to be the longest video because I'm taking time to explain what Proverbs is. Okay? So Proverbs comes from the Hebrew word mashal, which means to be like, to be like. The theme of the book is found in Proverbs 1:7, which reads, the fear of Yahuwah, or YHVH, or for English, it says capital L-O-R-D, the Lord, is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Okay? So let me see, and I'll read it from the King James as well, for people who read it in King James and may have a hard time understanding what I'm saying, because I'm going back and forth from different scriptures. But it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Okay? And then there is another one that, a version of this that reads, the fear of Adonai is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. So you see the word discipline and instruction are being used on different translations of the scripture. So you understand that this, whatever word it was in Hebrew, it means instruction, and it also means discipline. So it's discipline and instruction are the same thing. And people, it's not discipline is not a judgment. It's not a like people think that discipline is a whipping. You go and you spank your child. That's not discipline. Okay, that's punishment. A discipline is giving instruction. So just like if you ever think somebody has took the discipline of martial arts, they took the discipline of learning the law of code, or to become a lawyer, learning law. So it's a discipline. That's what discipline is. It's a very high instruction that's given by a master teacher onto a student. Okay, so that's what the book of Proverbs is giving us. This is the means by which the wisdom comes and is revealed, and that's found in Proverbs 1:7. So let's put this aside. Okay, so now with that being said, there's a lot to the book of Proverbs, and we can go on talking about all that Solomon did and how he was given the wisdom and knowledge that he had, and all the things that he did, and how he met Queen Sheba. And it's a beautiful story, and go read all that stuff. But his end of his life wasn't so great because he didn't take the warning from the father that he gave him, and he didn't listen to his and that's talking about Elohim. But he didn't take the instructions of King David, his father, also. See, if he would have listened to his physical father and his spiritual father, he would have done even greater things than what he did. And he's considered the wisest man to ever walk the face of this earth. Okay, so I'm going to read what I'm reading from. It's called the New Oxford Annotated Bible. I think it's probably one of the easier versions to read. And it's just for this these videos, I'm going to use this one just for the reading purposes for everyone, and hopefully you can understand what's being said. So now we're going to begin in Proverbs chapter 1, and we're going to read the entire chapter. So this will be day 1, and then we can go to day 2. And then throughout the years, if you want to read it again, you can skip past the introduction of me teaching you what Proverbs is, some of what Proverbs is about and who wrote it and all those things, and just start at this point right here. Right around 15 minutes into the video, you can find out who we can start. Sorry about that. It's kind of getting kind of okay. There it goes. I don't know why it's doing that. But anyway, so let's begin. All right, Proverbs 1, chapter 1, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of King David, king of Israel, for learning about wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for gaining instructions in wise dealings, righteousness, justice, and equity, to teach shrewdness to the simple, knowledge and prudence to the young. Let the wise also hear and gain in learning, and in the discerning acquire skill, to understand a proverb and a figure, a word of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Hear, my child, your father's instructions, and do not reject your mother's teachings. For they are a fair garland for your head, and a pennant for your neck. My child, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us wanton only to ambush the innocent. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole. Like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of costly things. We shall fill our houses with booty. There, throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. My child, do not walk in their way. Keep your foot from their paths. For their feet run to evil, and they hurry to shed blood. For in vain is the net baited, while the bird is looking on. Yet they lie in wait to kill themselves, and set an ambush for their own lives. Such is the end of all who are greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. Wisdom cries out in the streets, in the squares, and raises her voice. And the busy corners she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates she speaks. How long, O simple one, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you refused, have stretched out my hands and no one heeded, and because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you, when panic strikes you like a storm, and all your calamity comes like a whirlwind. When distress and anguish comes upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the fear of the Lord. Would have none of my counsel, and despise all of my reproof. Therefore they shall eat of the fruit of their way, and be sated with their own devices. For waywardness killed the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to me will be secure, and will live at ease, without dread of disaster. Now that's all of chapter 1. And you can already see that there's a warning going out. And when wisdom is crying out in the streets in verse 20 and 21 and 22, it's a prophet that's speaking. And look at it, it says, and wisdom cries out in the streets, in the squares. She raises her voice. So number one, we see that wisdom is referred to as a she. And she's raising her voice, trying to get our attention. That's wisdom crying out. Wisdom has a voice. Are you listening to that voice? Am I listening to that voice? Are we listening to that voice? Well, that's chapter 1. Most of this has been just teaching a little bit about what Proverbs is, who wrote it, and what it means. But that's just chapter 1. So as we go on, I'll make a video tomorrow and we'll do chapter 2. And I'm not going to give all kinds of explanations. I'm just going to read it and give a little explanation on maybe something that I see there. And then we'll just do it. What I'm going to try to do is just in the beginning, just read it. And then after that, I'll do a little teaching on it. And if you want to just hear it and to be read to you, then you can just do that and then turn it off. But if you want to hear the teaching, the little teaching that I'll give after that, you can keep it on and you can listen to that also. You know, it just matters how much time you have and what you're doing. I know people get busy in this life, but at least in 31 days, if you just put these videos on for, you know, 5 minutes, however long it takes me to read one chapter, in 31 days, you would have read the entire book of Proverbs. And believe me, the word says that, you know, faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of Elohim. So even if you just put it on and listen to the word of Proverbs, wisdom will be crying into your ears and pouring into your heart and into your mind. And hopefully she captivates you. She captivates you with her love for you and her instructions for you. And, oh man, her comfort for you. So just be blessed, stay great, and shalom, shalom.